And without further ado, let me ask Dean Richard Revesz of the New York University School of Law to start things.
Thank you so much. Welcome. I'm delighted to be here this morning, welcoming you to NYU Law School and hosting the presentation of the Women's Right Prize from the Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation. I feel that the lives of the foundation at NYU Law School have become very nicely intertwined in recent years, and it makes me very pleased. I first welcomed the Gruber Foundation to the law school, to this room here, for this particular event in 2007, and was really impressed by its mission to recognize the often unsung efforts of working to ensure our civil liberties. Back then, that year, the Women's Right Prize went to Pinar Icaracan and two organizations that she helped found, Women for Women's Human Rights, New Ways, and Coalition for Sexual and Bodily Rights in Muslim Societies. She worked for ending violence and discrimination against women in Turkey and its surrounding regions. And it was a wonderful event, as I'm sure today will be an equally wonderful event. And then in 2008, the foundation awarded its International Justice Prize to one of NYU Law School's most distinguished alumni, the Honorable Tom Bergenthal, who is the U.S. judge on the International Court of Justice. And I was really pleased to be invited to come to Washington, D.C. and pay tribute to his work, which started. He was a Holocaust survivor who, in very roundabout ways, ended up on a scholarship at NYU Law School, eventually got on to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, helped end Guatemala's execution of human rights activists by special tribunals, and eventually made his way up to the International Court of Justice. And there was a very moving set of tributes for Tom, who's a truly magnificent person. And then only a year later, my extraordinary colleague Brian Stevenson, who is one of our nation's foremost death penalty litigators and teaches a wonderful death penalty clinic here at the law school, received the International Justice Prize as well for his work providing representation to prisoners in Alabama who've been denied fair treatment in our legal system. And I know from conversations with them that it was very meaningful for Tom and Brian. It was sort of a capstone of wonderful careers to receive this really prestigious honor. And I'm now really pleased to extend my congratulations to the 2010 Women's Right Prize winners, the Center for Reproductive Rights, and CLADEM, Comité de América Latina y el Caribe para la Defensa de los Derechos de la Mujer. The recognition for the work you have done to advance the rights of women in the U.S. and abroad is extremely well deserved. I want to recognize Patricia Gruber. The award winners deserve endless praise, but so do Peter and Patricia Gruber, who had a wonderful idea and have carried it out in an extraordinarily professional and serious way for many years. And they deserve enormous admiration for what they have done, for bringing the spotlight on organizations and individuals who deserve attention and often don't get quite the attention that they deserve. So it's a great honor to welcome you here. Patricia, as you know, has led the foundation with her husband Peter since its founding in 1993, and is now its president. She has also been involved in a number of other important philanthropic activities, both on the mainland, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I have great admiration for Patricia. So it's a great honor to leave you in her hands, a wonderful advocate for human rights, Patricia Gruber.
Thank you, Dean Revesz, for those really warm, kind, welcoming words. We are really delighted to be here at the beautiful Greenberg Lounge at New York Law School. And New York University School of Law has an outstanding record of academic excellence and support of human rights around the world. This was one of the first law schools to admit women. Again, we thank Dean Revesz for his warm welcome. I know you have to leave for many other appointments, but we thank you for coming this morning. We are here, as Dean Rivez said, to honor the achievements of the Center for Reproductive Rights and CLADEM, two organizations that through litigation, law reform, and education have significantly advanced the cause of women's reproductive health and freedom in many countries in the face of resistance to women's reproductive rights. I'd first like to tell you about the company they are keeping with the other awards. The Foundation's Prize Program, which was established in 2000, now presents 5 annual prizes of $500,000 each in the fields of cosmology, genetics, neuroscience, justice, and women's rights. Each prize recognizes achievements and discoveries that produce fundamental shifts in human knowledge and culture. In October, the Justice Prize will be presented to Michael Kirby, John Dugard, and the Indian Law Center at the George Washington University School of Law. Later that month, at the University of Chicago, the Cosmology Prize will be presented to Charles Steidel. In November, the Genetics Prize will be presented to Gerald Fink at the 60th annual meeting of the American Society of Human Genetics, again in Washington. And later in November, the Neuroscience Prize will be presented at the 41st annual meeting of the Society for Neuroscience in San Diego to Robert Wirtz. I'd like to acknowledge the vision and generosity of my husband, Peter Gruber, in establishing these prizes. Peter is not well and cannot be with us today, but sends his warm congratulations to today's recipients and his encouragement. We award the Women's Rights Prize annually to honor courageous efforts anywhere in the world to help achieve gender equality. The past laureates of the Women's Rights Prize are, most recent first, Lema Bowie and the Women's Legal Center, Yanar Mohammed, Sapna Pradhanmala, and Nadera Shalub-Kevorkian. Pinar Ilkarajan, Women for Women's Human Rights, and the Coalition for Sexual and Body Rights. The Unión Nacional de Mujeres Guatemaltecas, Cecilia Medina Quiroga, who is here with us today, and Sweatshop Watch. The Women's League of Burma and the Shan Women's Action Network. Sakina Yakubi and the Afghan Institute of Learning, and Sakina is here with us today. Navanitham Pillay and Profam Twese Hamwe. And now to the presentation of today's 2010 prize. A distinguished board of international advisors has guided the selection of this year's recipients. The members are Sakiko Fukuda Par, Geeta Rao Gupta, Pinar Ilkarajan, Aqua Kenyuhe, Cecilia Medina Quiroga, Tandabantu Nlapo, who is here with us today, and Sakina Yakubi. My husband Peter and I deeply appreciate the knowledge, the commitment, and the enthusiasm that the judges bring to this process. Before asking our recipients to step forward, I'd like to invite a member of our advisory board to read the official prize citation. And I am looking here. Carol Jenkins, our moderator today, has kindly agreed to read the citation for us. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm so pleased to be here. The official citation to the prize reads, the Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation proudly presents the 2010 Women's Rights Prize to the Center for Reproductive Rights, a U.S.-based organization that uses the law to protect women's reproductive freedom, and the Latin American and Caribbean Committee for the Defense of Women's Rights, known as CLADEM, a network of activists and organizations from countries in the region committed to the defense of women's rights as human rights, for their historic collaboration in advancing women's sexual and reproductive rights, and successfully holding governments accountable for complying with international treaties and standards on women's rights. And I now ask Geeta Rao Gupta, the former president of the International Center for Research on Women, to say a few words about one of our two recipients, the Center for Reproductive Rights. Geeta.
It is my great honor to introduce to you today the extraordinary work of a remarkable organization, the Center for Reproductive Rights. Reproductive freedom lies at the heart of the promise of human dignity, self-determination, and equality as embodied both in the U.S. Constitution and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Center for Reproductive Rights works towards a time when that promise is enshrined in law in the United States and throughout the world. For more than 15 years, the Center has used the law to advance reproductive freedom as a fundamental human right that all governments are legally obligated to protect, respect, and fulfill. Since 1992, their attorneys have boldly used legal and human rights tools to ensure that every woman is free to decide whether and when to have children, guarantee women access to the best reproductive health care available, and make certain that women everywhere can exercise their choices without coercion or discrimination. Through groundbreaking cases before national courts, UN committees, and regional human rights bodies, the Center for Reproductive Rights has successfully strengthened laws and policies in more than 50 countries. They have influenced the law outside the courtroom as well by documenting abuses, working with policymakers to promote progressive measures, and fostering legal scholarship and teaching on reproductive health and human rights. And they do all this in partnership with local lawyers and advocates to ensure that their strategies are sensitive to and effective in each unique culture, economic, and political context. Their effectiveness is in part due to this local focus, but also because they combine that with a global reach. They build on their success in any given country to improve the lives of women everywhere. In fact, it was their effective partnership with the regional network, CLADEM, and their ability to hold a government accountable that made them stand out among a group of many excellent contenders to be selected for the 2010 Gruber Foundation Women's Rights Prize. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. On behalf of my colleagues on the committee and the Gruber Foundation, many thanks for fighting for women's rights and reproductive justice the world over.
And now we would like to invite a previous recipient of the prize, Cecilia Medina Quiroga, who is a professor of international human rights law at the University of Chile, to say a few words about CLADEM, our second recipient. Cecilia?
Thank you very much. I am also honored that I have been asked to say some words about CLADEM, one of this year's recipients of the Women's Rights Prize for the Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation. I have known CLADEM for many years. It started as a coalition of a few groups in a few countries in 1987 and developed to what exists today, a committee of many countries, both in Latin America and the Caribbean islands. I have come across a significant number of women NGOs during my many years of activities with women, and I have rarely found women with the extension of the commitment that CLADEM women possess. They have worked under extremely hard conditions voluntarily in a continent where earning a living is often a major task. Their mission is also a testing one. They deal with women's autonomy and therefore with discrimination, political autonomy, economic autonomy, and autonomy of the body, where we find reproductive rights and violence, have all been addressed by the various organizations that form part of this committee. The two recipients of this year's prize obtained through litigation a landmark decision from the Human Rights Committee with regard to the positive obligations of a Latin American state concerning abortion. Finally, I have to acknowledge, because I think it is very important, the wisdom of CLAREM as it has tried and succeeded to incorporate in the alliance not only women's NGOs, but human rights NGOs of all sorts, thereby expressing their firm commitment of the idea that women's struggle is the struggle for a society where discrimination on all grounds should be eradicated. I wholeheartedly give them my support and my gratitude for all they have done, and hope that you will continue to do so. Nancy Northup of the Center for Reproductive Rights and Norma Enríquez from CLAREM, please come forward to receive the prize. Thank you.